The traffic jam on I-80 outside of Elko, Nevada, had turned what should have been a 4-hour drive into a 6-hour slog. By the time I finally crawled free and hit the open road, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the desolate highway. Headlights became my only companions, winking on and off in the distance. Then, I noticed it, a pair of headlights in the rearview mirror, so close they seemed welded to my bumper. High beams on, bathing the back of my Honda Civic in an unwelcome spotlight. At first, I figured it was just another impatient driver, eager to pass on the empty highway. But this car stayed there, uncomfortably close, high beams unwavering for mile after agonizing mile. Panic gnawed at me. I wasn't exactly in the safest part of the country, and being followed on a deserted stretch of road wasn't exactly calming. I tried everything to lose them, speeding up, slowing down, even pulling off onto a dusty exit ramp for a few seconds before merging back onto the highway. But the car mirrored every move, always maintaining that unnervingly close distance. As darkness swallowed the highway, fear turned to a cold dread. Then, a glimmer of hope appeared, the neon glow of a truck stop diner in the distance. I practically slammed on the brakes, throwing the car into a near skid, and pulled into the parking lot with a sigh of relief. The diner was a greasy spoon with flickering fluorescent lights and a jukebox playing classic country. I found a booth in the corner, ordered a lukewarm coffee, and tried to calm my racing heart. But every few seconds, I found myself glancing out the window at the parking lot, searching for those relentless headlights. Just as I started to relax a little, I saw movement. The car from the highway had pulled into a spot across the lot. A figure emerged from the driver's side, shrouded in rain and darkness. Details were impossible to make out, but the way it stood there, perfectly still, staring at my car, it sent shivers down my spine. Frozen in fear, I watched as the figure took a few hesitant steps towards my car, then stopped again. Then, just as quickly as it appeared, the figure turned back and got back into its car. Moments later, the car's engine roared to life. Headlights cut through the darkness as it peeled out of the parking lot, disappearing into the night like a phantom. My hands were shaking as I dialed 911, explaining my experience to the dispatcher. The Elko County Sheriff's deputy arrived within 10 minutes. He listened patiently as I recounted the events, his face creased with a mixture of skepticism and concern. The sheriff checked the diner's security footage, but it conveniently malfunctioned that night. There were no leads, no explanation. The sheriff reassured me as best he could, but I knew there was a sliver of doubt in his voice. He promised to follow up, but I wasn't holding my breath. Leaving my car in the well-lit parking lot, I opted for a room at the nearby motel. The image of those headlights seared into my memory. Even now, back home in the safety of my own city, I can't shake the feeling of being watched. Maybe it was just the exhaustion and the crazy weather playing tricks on my mind. But whatever it was a stark reminder that sometimes the most terrifying things lurk in the shadows of even the most ordinary places. And one thing's for sure, I'm never taking a late-night drive on a deserted highway again. It was a summer's night in 2015. I was on a solo road trip fulfilling a lifelong dream, cruising down Route 66 from Oklahoma to California in my beat-up Toyota Corolla. The open road stretched before me, dotted with the faded glory of old diners, neon signs, and abandoned gas stations. It was a photographer's dream, capturing the fading beauty of a bygone era. Nightfall painted the sky in fiery hues as I crossed the border into New Mexico. The isolation started to creep in. Every rustle of the desert wind sounded like approaching footsteps, and the occasional headlights in the distance became unwelcome companions. Just outside of Tucumcari, a flicker of movement caught my eye. A lone figure stood by the side of the road, thumb outstretched. Against every safety rule ingrained in me, a pang of sympathy struck me. He was bundled in a worn brown coat, his face obscured by the shadows of a wide-brimmed hat. Hesitantly, I pulled over. He shuffled towards the car, a weary smile creasing his sun-baked face. "Evenin'. Are you heading west?" he rasped, his voice a gravelly whisper. He introduced himself as Henry, a traveling mechanic stranded after his car died miles back. His story checked out, and his weary demeanor seemed genuine. He climbed into the passenger seat, the worn leather groaning under his weight. The car became a cocoon of silence for a while, broken only by the hum of the engine and the occasional creak of the old car. Finally, Henry spoke, his voice laced with a strange reverence. "You know, Route 66 used to be something special, a place of stories, of journeys, of dreams chasing the setting sun." He pointed out landmarks, the Blue Swallow Motel, the Teepee Curios, each a relic of a bygone era. He shared stories of lost towns and forgotten highways, his voice growing more animated with each tale. As we neared the small town of Adrian, Texas, a chill ran down my spine. Henry's demeanor shifted. He gripped the dashboard with white knuckles, his eyes darting nervously in the rearview mirror. "Pull over!" he hissed, his voice barely a whisper. "Don't stop in Adrian, whatever you do." Panic surged through me. "Why?" I stammered, gripping the steering wheel. He wouldn't meet my eyes, muttering incoherently about shadows and unfinished business. Finally, his gaze locked onto mine, a look of raw terror etched on his face. "They're waiting! Don't let them get you!" he rasped. Before I could question him further, he practically leaped out of the car and disappeared into the darkness, his worn coat swallowed by the night. The deserted gas station and boarded-up diner of Adrian loomed ahead, bathed in the eerie glow of a dying streetlight. Henry's words echoed in my mind. I pressed on, a knot of fear tightening in my stomach. Then, I saw them, two sets of headlights flickering in the distance, gaining ground rapidly. My blood ran cold. Route 66, once a symbol of freedom, now felt like a desolate racetrack with unseen pursuers. I pushed the Corolla to its limits, the engine screaming in protest. The headlights grew closer, illuminating the desolate landscape in their harsh glare. I weaved through traffic on the two-lane highway, praying to outrun whatever was behind me. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the headlights vanished. Exhausted and terrified, I drove through the night, not daring to stop until the sun painted the sky in the hues of dawn. I haven't spoken of this night to anyone, fearing ridicule, but the memory of Henry's frantic plea and the unseen pursuers on that lonely stretch of Route 66 chills me to the bone. Who were they? What secrets did the sleepy town of Adrian hold? The answers remain buried beneath the dusty asphalt, a chilling reminder of the mysteries that linger along the Mother Road.